total dishonesty of the media, better than anybody. And I let people know it. I mean, the media is a very, very dishonest arm, and we'll see what happens.
That's President Trump. Apple CEO Tim Cook says fake news is killing people's minds. If only we had a professor at George Washington University who teaches news and the press and the presidency to explain all of this to us. Stephen Roberts is ABC News political analyst from Washington, D.C., who is a professor at George Washington University that teaches a course called Media, Politics, and Government. It is taught by our very next guest. He joins us every Monday. Good morning, Stephen Roberts.
Yeah, thanks. I've taught this course for 25 years, and two words have kind of stayed the same, McGraw: media, politics, and government. The word that changes virtually every week. I have to change this course every week, not every semester, because something is going to happen that is going to be noteworthy in this field. And this has been a hallmark of the first 3 weeks of the Trump presidency. He's relentlessly attacking the media, as you showed in those news clips. He's doing it for three reasons. He wants to use the media as a symbol of a much larger idea that he has been very effective at running against, which is all of those elites, whether they're on Wall Street, whether they're in the media, whether they're in corporations, who look down on ordinary Americans. The second thing, though, is to try to undercut the ability and the credibility of news media to hold him to account. Over the weekend, one of his young aides, Stephen Miller, was on ABC with George Stephanopoulos, and Miller said repeatedly that 3 to 5 million votes were cast illegally. It's the only reason why Trump lost the popular vote. And George said repeatedly back to him, "You have offered absolutely no evidence to support this. No one has offered any evidence." But the Trump strategy is to undercut the credibility of someone like Stephanopoulos of the Wall Street Journal, which this morning said Miller's comments were unsubstantiated and widely discredited, but they keep repeating them. So Trump's description of a running war between the administration and the media is accurate, and I see no sign that war is abating. In fact, I think it's getting worse.
As much as you want to blame the politicians, it's the people, it's us, the people who are receiving the news, who choose to go to the place not to find out what the news is, but to be told that our opinions are right, whether it's an MSNBC guy or a Fox guy. If you never look at the other broadcast, you don't get a sense of what the other person's thinking.
You're absolutely right about that, and it's something that's been concerning me as a professor for a long time, because any consumer of news can program her own devices just to, and it's not just whether you go to Fox or NBC, it's also even more true in some ways in the digital space, because you follow only certain people on Twitter, you friend only certain people on Facebook. And your news feed and everything you get continuously through your laptop or your cell phone is filtered that way. It's only opinions and articles that reinforce what you think you believe. And it gets even worse than that, because the Facebook algorithms, which provide anybody on Facebook, and increasingly people are getting their news through Facebook, it reflects the choices people have made in the past. So if you have gone to liberal sources regularly, that's the what's going to show up in your news feed on Facebook, because the algorithms repeat the patterns you yourself have shown. So it's a feedback loop where people more and more are isolated from each other, more and more isolated from independent sources of information. President Obama, in the final days, McGraw, of his administration, talked a lot about this and how frustrating it was to try to make policy when there was no common agreement on the facts of an issue. And that has just gotten worse under Trump.
What do you see, Stephen Roberts, as a professor with the incoming millennials, as crazy as they are getting all their news on their phone? Can they distinguish between the Wall Street Journal and Breitbart and the New York Times and the Daily Kos?
I certainly hope so. I spend a lot of time trying to teach them how to do that. But it's look. There's good news and bad news here. The good news is that anybody, particularly these young people who spend so much time on these devices, they have access to so many more voices, so much more diversity, there's so much energy and vitality on the web, which is a great thing. The problem is that there's no filter there, so that you pick up the Wall Street Journal, whether you agree with it or not, you're getting a professionally produced, ethically sound news product that you can have some amount of faith and confidence in. But on the web, who knows what you're getting? And so there's an enormous amount of good, vital, diverse information, and there's an enormous amount of falsehood and fiction. And you got to take the bad with the good. And young people going to have to take much, much more responsibility for applying standards and veracity and accountability to their own news information, because the editors and producers that used to do that are not there anymore.
Stephen Roberts, best in the business, ABC News political analyst and professor at George Washington University. That'll be 3 credit hours for that 5 minutes. Thank you very much, Stephen. Have a good day.
Yeah, pop quiz next week.
There you go. 7:58, Big 550, KTRS.